To our amazing viewers at Cheating Tales Lab, we'd love to hear, which part of the world are you joining us from? Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Foundations of Steel. Owen Howard had built his empire from nothing, and he'd learned early that in life, you either crushed or got crushed. At 52, he commanded respect in every boardroom he entered, his steel-gray eyes and methodical precision having earned him a fortune in commercial real estate. But it was the lessons from his brutal childhood in Detroit's forgotten neighborhoods that truly shaped him. Lessons about loyalty, betrayal, and the price of both. His penthouse overlooked the city he'd conquered, floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting the late afternoon sun. The mahogany desk where he'd sealed million-dollar deals was now cluttered with family photos. His wife Shannon's radiant smile beside their daughter Christina's graduation picture. 23 years of marriage, and Shannon still turned heads at 50. Owen had always been proud of that, proud that other men wanted what was his. Christina burst through the front door, her 17-year-old energy filling the space. "Dad, Alan's coming for dinner tonight. Mom already said yes." Owen looked up from his laptop, studying his daughter's face. Christina had inherited his sharp intelligence, but Shannon's beauty, a dangerous combination that made him perpetually protective. "The boyfriend gets to meet the family, huh? He's been my boyfriend for 6 months, Dad. It's time." Christina's voice carried that particular teenage blend of exasperation and affection. Owen's phone buzzed with a text from Shannon, "Working late again. Start dinner without me. Love you both." The third time this week. Owen's jaw tightened imperceptibly, but he simply nodded to Christina. "Tell me about this Alan kid." "Alan Beasley. He's 18, senior at Westfield Academy. His family owns Beasley Construction." Christina's eyes lit up as she spoke. "He's different, Dad. Really smart, really driven. Kind of reminds me of you, actually." That evening, Alan Beasley arrived precisely on time, a point in his favor. Tall, confident handshake, looked Owen directly in the eye. The kid had potential, Owen decided, watching him navigate dinner conversation with intelligence and respect. But something nagged at Owen throughout the meal, a businessman's instinct honed by decades of reading people. When Alan excused himself to the bathroom halfway through dinner, Christina immediately grabbed Owen's arm, her face suddenly pale. "Dad, check his wallet." Now. Owen's blood chilled at the terror in his daughter's voice. "What's wrong? Please, just trust me." His wallet, it's on the chair. Owen had built his fortune on trusting his instincts, and every alarm bell was ringing. Without hesitation, he reached for the leather wallet Alan had left on his chair. Inside, past the driver's license and credit cards, Owen found a small pocket containing several photos. His heart stopped. The first photo showed Shannon, his wife of 23 years, in an intimate embrace with a man Owen didn't recognize. The second showed them entering a hotel. The third was Shannon, partially undressed, looking directly at the camera with an expression Owen had never seen before, raw, passionate, alive in a way she hadn't been with him in years. But it was the fourth photo that made Owen's hands shake with rage. Shannon and her lover were laughing, holding what appeared to be a positive pregnancy test. Owen's world tilted off its axis. He reached for his phone with steady hands, though inside, something fundamental was breaking, or perhaps awakening. 911. I need to report a potential crime. Chapter 2. The web unravels. The police arrived within 20 minutes, but by then Owen had already begun his investigation. Alan Beasley, it turned out, was Derek McCarty's nephew, Derek McCarty being the man in the photographs with Shannon. The photos had been Alan's insurance policy, lifted from his uncle's apartment, and kept as leverage for reasons that would soon become clear. Detective Wilson Welch, a weathered man in his 50s who'd seen every variety of human betrayal, sat across from Owen in his study. "Mr. Howard, I need you to understand that possession of these photographs isn't technically illegal. Your wife is an adult, and if she consented to them being taken." Detective Welch. Owen's voice was controlled, lethal in its quiet intensity. "I didn't call you about the photographs. I called about what they represent. My wife has been deceiving me, possibly about a pregnancy that isn't mine. I want to know my legal options." Christina sat beside her father, her face streaked with tears. "I'm sorry, Dad. I've known for weeks. I saw them together at the mall, and when I found out Alan was Derek's nephew, I confronted him. He showed me the photos, said his uncle was bragging about. about how he was going to destroy our family for money. Owen's hand found his daughter's shoulder, his touch gentle despite the fury building inside him. You did the right thing, sweetheart. You're the only one who's been honest with me. As Detective Welch took notes, Owen's mind was already several steps ahead. Derek McCarty, he'd heard that name before. A small-time contractor who'd bid on several of Owen's development projects and lost. A man with gambling debts and a reputation for cutting corners. This wasn't just an affair, it was a calculated attack on everything Owen had built. After the police left, Owen sat alone in his study, staring at the photographs spread across his desk. 23 years of marriage, and Shannon had chosen to betray him with a man who was clearly using her. The pregnancy test in the photo could be fake, but Owen's gut told him it wasn't. Shannon had been different lately, secretive, distant, but also strangely energetic. His phone rang. Shannon's name on the caller ID. Hi, honey. How did dinner go with Christina's boyfriend? Owen marveled at how normal she sounded, how easily the lies flowed. Enlightening, he said simply. Oh good. I'm so sorry I missed it. This project is just consuming my life right now. What project is that, Shannon? A pause. The Morrison account. I've told you about it. Owen pulled up Shannon's company website on his laptop. No Morrison account listed. No late-night projects. Her assistant had told Owen just last week that Shannon had been leaving early most days. When will you be home? Late. Don't wait up. Owen hung up and immediately called his private investigator, a man who'd helped him research business competitors for years. Marcus, I need everything you can find on Derek McCarty. And I need you to follow my wife. I want to know everywhere she goes, everyone she meets, every lie she tells. Owen, are you sure you want to go down this road? Owen looked at the photographs again, seeing not just betrayal but calculation, planning, mockery of everything he'd built and believed in. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. As he hung up, Owen realized something profound had shifted inside him. The loving husband was gone, replaced by the man who'd clawed his way out of poverty through sheer will and ruthless determination. Shannon and Derek had made a fatal error. They'd forgotten who they were dealing with. Owen Howard didn't just win, he obliterated his enemies. And now, for the first time in 23 years, he had enemies living in his own home. Chapter 3. The Architecture of Revenge. 3 days of surveillance yielded a treasure trove of information. Derek McCarty wasn't just Shannon's lover. He was a man desperate enough to attempt something far more sinister than a simple affair. Phone records showed calls to insurance companies, lawyers specializing in accidental death cases, and most damning of all, a life insurance policy on Owen that Shannon had secretly increased to $5 million just 6 months ago. Owen sat in his study at 3 a.m., surrounded by evidence that painted a picture of calculated murder. The pregnancy wasn't Derek's insurance policy. It was meant to be Shannon's alibi. A grieving widow, pregnant with her late husband's child, inheriting everything. Marcus, his investigator, had recorded Derek and Shannon's conversation from their hotel room. Once the accident happens, we'll have everything. $5 million in insurance, plus his assets. The baby gives us the perfect cover. Who would suspect a pregnant widow? What about Christina? Shannon's voice, cold in a way Owen had never heard. She's 17. We'll be her guardians. She inherits when she's 25, but by then, we'll have had years to manage her expectations. Owen's hands trembled with rage as he listened to them plan not just his death, but his daughter's future manipulation. These weren't crimes of passion. They were calculated moves in a game where Owen was meant to be the losing piece. But Owen Howard had been playing chess while they thought they were playing checkers. He'd spent 48 hours crafting his response, using every resource at his disposal. First, he'd had his lawyer quietly restructure his assets, creating a web of trusts and offshore accounts that would take years to untangle. Second, he'd hired additional security, though Derek and Shannon didn't know they were being watched. Third, he'd begun laying groundwork for something far more permanent. The next morning, Owen appeared at breakfast as if nothing had changed, kissing Shannon's cheek and asking about her day. The performance was almost therapeutic. He was amazed how easily he could mirror their deception. I was thinking, he said casually, buttering his toast. We should take a trip. Maybe that cabin up north you've always loved. Just the two of us, like a second honeymoon. Shannon's face lit up, and Owen felt sick watching her genuine excitement. She really believed she could murder him and get away with it. That sounds wonderful. When were you thinking? This weekend. I'll have Marcus book it. Owen's smile was warm, loving. I want to surprise you. You've been working so hard lately. That afternoon, Owen called Derek McCarty directly. Mr. McCarty? This is Owen Howard. I understand you've been seeing my wife. Silence on the other end. I also understand you've been making plans that involve my untimely departure from this world. I don't know what you're talking about. Owen's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Derek, I've been recording your conversations for 3 days. I know about the insurance policy, the pregnancy, the cabin. I know everything. You're bluffing. Am I? Here's what's going to happen. You're going to meet me tonight, 10 p.m., at the construction site on Bleecker Street, your construction site. Come alone. And if I don't, then I call the police with evidence of conspiracy to commit murder, and you spend the rest of your life in prison. But if you come tonight, we can discuss a more permanent solution to our mutual problem. Owen hung up, feeling the familiar rush of a deal coming together. But this wasn't business. This was personal. And Owen Howard's personal vendettas had no statute of limitations. He spent the rest of the day making final preparations, each detail planned with the precision that had made him wealthy. By tonight, Derek McCarty would understand exactly who he'd chosen to cross. And tomorrow, Shannon would learn what happened to people who betrayed Owen Howard's trust. The old Owen, the loving husband and father, had died the moment he saw those photographs. What emerged was something Shannon and Derek should have researched more carefully. A man who'd grown up in streets where betrayal meant death, who'd built an empire by never showing mercy to those who crossed him. They'd made one crucial miscalculation. They'd assumed Owen Howard was soft because he was successful. Tonight, Derek would learn the difference between being civilized and being weak. And that difference would kill him. Chapter 4, Blood and Concrete. Owen Howard's childhood had been a masterclass in survival. At 8 years old, watching his father's construction business get stolen by partners who'd promised loyalty, Owen learned his first lesson. Trust was a luxury that led to destruction. When those same partners had arranged his father's accident at a job site, 12-year-old Owen understood that weakness invited predators. He'd spent his teenage years working construction jobs, watching how power flowed through intimidation and respect. By 20, he'd learned to speak the language of violence fluently, though he'd wrapped it in expensive suits and corporate strategies. But the core remained. Cross Owen Howard, and you paid in blood. Now, at 10 p.m., standing in Derek McCarty's abandoned construction site, Owen felt that old familiar calm. The half-built structure loomed around them, skeletal and perfect for what needed to happen. Derek arrived 20 minutes late, nervous energy radiating from every step. Howard, you wanted to talk. Owen studied the man who'd planned his murder, seeing weakness disguised as confidence. Derek was soft, probably never been in a real fight, never faced genuine consequences for his actions. I want to show you something, Owen said, walking deeper into the construction site. You see this building? You bid on the contract 2 years ago, lost to a better company. So you've been holding a grudge. My wife was just the tool you used to get back at me. Owen's voice echoed off the concrete pillars. But I need to understand, was killing me always the plan, or did that come later? Derek's hand moved toward his jacket, but Owen was faster. The gun appeared in Owen's hand with practiced ease, trained from years of protection courses that had become second nature. Easy, Derek. We're just talking. You're insane if you think you can threaten me. Owen laughed, a sound that held no warmth. Threaten? Derek, you misunderstood the invitation. This isn't a negotiation. I have insurance. If something happens to me, everything goes to the police. You mean this insurance? Owen held up Derek's phone, which he'd had lifted from Derek's car by a professional. Already taken care of. Amazing how much a man will share with his nephew when he thinks he's about to be rich. Derek's face went pale. Alan, Christina's boyfriend? The one whose conscience finally got the better of him? Yes, Derek. He's been working with me for 2 days now. Funny thing about teenage boys, when you explain to them what rape by deception looks like, when you show them recordings of adults planning to murder their girlfriend's father, their moral compass tends to realign. Owen circled Derek slowly, enjoying the fear he could smell. See, Derek, you thought you were playing a game. Seduce the wife, kill the husband, take the money. Simple plan. But you never researched who you were dealing with. I know exactly who you are. You're a businessman. I'm a businessman now. But I grew up in the Cass corridor when it was a war zone. I learned to fight before I learned to read. And when my father was murdered by his business partners, murdered for money, just like you planned to do to me, I learned that some problems require permanent solutions. Owen's gun never wavered as he continued his circle. Want to know what happened to those partners? Derek was backing toward the edge of the building now, where a 30-foot drop awaited. You're bluffing. Marcus found their remains last year when we were developing that lot on 8 Mile. Funny thing about concrete, it preserves everything. Owen's smile was predatory. I was 16 when I put them there. Old enough to understand justice. Young enough to believe in it absolutely. You can't kill me. You have too much to lose now. Do I? Owen pulled out his phone, showing Derek a video. This is security footage from your hotel. Shannon entering, you following. Timestamp shows this was happening while you were supposedly in a meeting with my lawyer about your bankruptcy proceedings. Derek's eyes widened. He hadn't known about Owen's connections to his financial troubles. See, Derek, I've been destroying you financially for months. Your credit, your contracts, your reputation, all gone. The only reason you needed my wife was because I'd already taken everything else. Owen's voice dropped to a whisper. And tomorrow, she's going to find out that her lover was broke, desperate, and using her just like she was using me. She loves me. She loves the idea of $5 million and a dead husband. Just like you love the idea of easy money. Owen raised the gun slightly. But love requires trust, Derek. And trust requires honesty. Neither of you understands either concept. Derek made his move then, lunging for Owen with desperate strength. But Owen had been expecting it, had been in this exact situation more times than he cared to remember. The gun fired once, the sound echoing off concrete walls. Derek McCarty fell backward, over the edge, 30 feet down onto rebar and broken concrete. The construction site swallowed him like it had swallowed Owen's father's murderers decades before. Owen holstered his gun and made a phone call. Marcus? It's done. Cleanup crew has 30 minutes. By morning, Derek McCarty would be part of the foundation of another of Owen's buildings. Justice served, just like his father had taught him. Now it was Shannon's turn to learn that some betrayals carried permanent consequences. Chapter 5, The Perfect Trap. Shannon Howard woke up Friday morning to find her husband making breakfast, humming cheerfully as he flipped pancakes. She'd tried calling Derek the night before, but his phone had gone straight to voicemail. Now, watching Owen's unusually good mood, she felt a flutter of unease. Sleep well? Owen asked, kissing her forehead with what seemed like genuine affection. Derek's not answering his phone, she said before she could stop herself. Owen paused mid-flip, his back to her. Derek McCarty? The contractor? Why would you be calling him? Shannon's heart hammered. Work has me dealing with some of his permits. Routine stuff. Oh. Owen turned, his smile warm but his eyes unreadable. Well, you might have trouble reaching him. I heard through the grapevine he's having some serious financial difficulties. Might be avoiding calls. Financial difficulties? Bankruptcy, from what I understand. Poor business decisions. Owen set a perfect stack of pancakes in front of her. Some people just don't know how to handle money responsibly. As Shannon picked at her breakfast, Owen watched her process the information. He could see her mind racing. If Derek was broke, then everything they'd planned was meaningless. A bankrupt man couldn't provide the life she'd been promised. I still think we should take that trip this weekend, Owen said casually. The cabin. Fresh air, just us. We haven't really talked, in months. Shannon nodded absently, clearly distracted. Sure, that sounds nice. Owen left for work, but not before installing several new security cameras throughout the house. Hidden, high-tech devices that would capture everything. He wanted Shannon's reaction recorded when she realized Derek was gone forever. At his office, Owen reviewed the morning's intelligence reports. Derek's disappearance was being handled expertly. His car found abandoned near the river, wallet missing, signs of a struggle. To the police, it would look like a robbery gone wrong. Derek's debts and desperate situation would suggest he'd gotten involved with dangerous people. But Owen's real masterpiece was still unfolding. He'd had his lawyer prepare divorce papers that would leave Shannon with virtually nothing. 23 years of marriage, but with evidence of adultery and conspiracy to commit murder, Michigan's laws would favor Owen completely. The offshore accounts he'd established would be untouchable. Shannon would be left with legal bills and public humiliation. However, divorce wasn't enough. Shannon had planned his murder. She'd carried his child while plotting his death. She'd looked him in the eye every morning while scheduling his execution. Owen Howard didn't believe in proportional responses. At 2 p.m., Shannon called him, her voice tight with panic. "Owen, I need to come see you. Something's wrong." "What's wrong?" I can't reach anyone from the Morrison Project. And Derek McCarty's construction site has police tape around it." Owen leaned back in his chair, savoring the moment. "Why don't you come to the office? We can talk about whatever's bothering you." When Shannon arrived, Owen was struck by how beautiful she still was, even in distress. At 50, she could pass for 40, her auburn hair catching the afternoon light, green eyes wide with fear. For a moment, he almost felt sorry for her. Then he remembered the pregnancy test and the photograph, remembered her voice on the recording discussing his accident, and the sympathy evaporated. "Sit down, Shannon." She perched on the edge of the chair across from his desk, nervous energy making her fidget with her wedding ring. "I need to tell you something," she began. "I know," Owen said simply. Shannon's face went white. "You know what?" "About Derek. About the pregnancy. About the insurance policy. About the plan to kill me at the cabin this weekend." Owen's voice was conversational, almost friendly. "I know everything." Shannon stood up abruptly, backing toward the door. "Owen, I can explain. Can you explain why you thought Derek McCarty could provide the life I've given you? Can you explain why you thought I was weak enough to be manipulated by a two-bit contractor and my own wife?" "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that." Owen opened his desk drawer, pulling out the photographs. These were very enlightening. Shannon stared at the images, her face cycling through shock, denial, and finally, defiance. "So what now? You divorce me, I get half, and we move on." Owen's laugh was genuinely amused. "Half? Shannon, you attempted to have me murdered. You committed adultery. You falsified insurance documents." He held up a thick folder. "Michigan is not a no-fault state, and I have evidence of crimes. You won't get half. You won't get anything. You can't prove. I can prove everything. Recordings, photographs, phone records, witness testimony." Owen stood, walking around the desk to face her. "But more importantly, I can prove you chose to cross someone you should have left alone." Shannon's defiance cracked. "What did you do to Derek?" "Derek made a choice. He chose to threaten my family, steal my wife, and plan my murder. Choices have consequences. Where is he?" Owen's smile was cold as winter. "Derek is where all threats to my family end up. Permanently neutralized." The blood drained from Shannon's face as the implication hit her. "You killed him." "I defended myself and my family against someone who planned to murder me for money. The police will find Derek's body eventually, but they'll conclude he got involved with dangerous people due to his debts." Very sad story. Shannon stumbled backward, hitting the door. "You're insane." "I'm thorough. And now you're going to learn what happens to people who betray Owen Howard's trust." His voice dropped to a whisper. "You wanted to be a widow, Shannon. I'm going to make that dream come true." Shannon's scream was cut short as the office door locked electronically behind her. Owen's smile never wavered as he reached for his phone. The game was about to begin in earnest. Chapter 6. The Closing Net. Shannon clawed at the office door handle, but Owen's security system had locked her in completely. The windows were reinforced glass 30 stories up. Escape was impossible. "Sit down, Shannon." Owen's voice carried the authority of a man accustomed to being obeyed. "Let me out. I'll disappear. I'll never bother you again." Too late for that. Owen returned to his desk, pulling out a legal document. "Besides, we have business to finish. Sign this." Shannon approached cautiously, reading the header. "Confession of adultery and conspiracy to commit murder." Very thorough document. It details your affair, the insurance fraud, the plan to kill me. Sign it, and I'll make your death quick." "My death?" Shannon's voice cracked. Owen looked at her with something resembling pity. "Shannon, you planned to murder me for money. Did you really think I'd let you live after that? I've spent 40 years making sure threats to my family are permanently eliminated. I'm the mother of your child. Are you?" Owen pulled out a DNA test report. "Took a hair from your brush yesterday. Christina is mine, thank God. But this pregnancy." He held up another document. "Medical records show you're not pregnant, Shannon. That test in the photo? Derek's insurance policy against you. He knew you'd eventually betray him, So he documented everything. Shannon's world tilted. That's impossible. Derek was using you just like you were using me. He got a photo of you holding a fake pregnancy test to ensure you'd never turn on him. Very smart, actually. Except he underestimated who he was dealing with. Owen stood, walking to his safe and retrieving a small device. This is a heart monitor. Measures stress, cardiac function. You're going to wear it. Why? Because your death needs to look natural. Heart attack brought on by stress and guilt over Derek's disappearance. Very tragic story. Loving wife discovers her business associate has been murdered. Overwhelming grief causes cardiac episode. Shannon backed against the window. You can't do this. I've already done it. Owen held up his phone, showing her a news article. Derek McCarty found dead, victim of apparent robbery. Police investigating connection to gambling debts. The article was time-stamped an hour ago. Shannon realized Derek had been dead for longer than she'd imagined. The beautiful part, Owen continued, is that everyone will believe you died of grief. The devoted wife, overwhelmed by the loss of a family friend. Christina will inherit everything, and I'll be the grieving widower who lost both his wife and business associate to tragic circumstances. Christina will never forgive you. Christina doesn't know about your affair or the murder plot. She thinks Derek was just her boyfriend's uncle who got involved with dangerous people. Owen's smile was gentle. She'll remember you as a loving mother who died tragically. Much better than the alternative. Shannon slumped against the window, the enormity of her situation crashing down. How long have you known? About the affair? 6 months. About the murder plot? Since Monday night. Owen sat back down, completely relaxed. I've been planning this conversation since I found out. Every detail, every contingency. 6 months. Did you really think you could hide anything from me? I built a fortune on information, Shannon. I know what my competitors are thinking before they do. Owen's eyes hardened. But I wanted to see how far you'd go. Murder was the line I needed you to cross. Shannon's mind raced, looking for any escape, any leverage. If you kill me, they'll investigate. They'll find connections. Will they? A grieving wife dies of cardiac arrest after her husband's business associate is murdered? Very straightforward case. Owen pulled out another folder. Besides, I have evidence that you were being blackmailed by Derek. Photos, threats, demands for money. You were a victim too, Shannon. A victim who couldn't handle the stress. The folder contained fabricated evidence so convincing that Shannon almost believed it herself. Owen had been planning this for months, creating a narrative that painted her as Derek's victim rather than his co-conspirator. You're a monster. I'm a man protecting his family from people who plan to destroy us for money. Owen's voice carried no emotion. You made me an enemy, Shannon. People who make me an enemy don't survive long enough to regret it. Shannon realized with crystal clarity that she was going to die in this office. Owen had thought of everything, planned every detail, created a story that would protect Christina while eliminating the threats to his family. Any last words? Owen asked, holding up the heart monitor device. Shannon looked at the man she'd married 23 years ago, seeing for the first time the cold calculation that had built his empire. She'd fallen in love with his success, but never understood its source. I loved you once, she whispered. I know, Owen replied. That's what made your betrayal unforgivable. As Owen attached the heart monitor to her chest, Shannon realized she'd spent 23 years sleeping next to a man who could kill without hesitation when his family was threatened. She'd mistaken his love for weakness, his success for softness. It was the last mistake she'd ever make. The device Owen activated wasn't just a heart monitor. It was designed to induce the cardiac episode it would record. Shannon's last thought was wondering how many other people had underestimated Owen Howard's capacity for permanent solutions. By evening, Owen would be a widower, and the threats to his family would be nothing but tragic memories. Chapter 7. The Perfect Widower. The ambulance arrived at Owen's office building within minutes of his frantic 911 call. By the time paramedics reached the 30th floor, Shannon Howard was already dead, her body slumped beside Owen's desk where he knelt, performing CPR with tears streaming down his face. She just collapsed, Owen told the paramedics, his voice breaking with what appeared to be genuine grief. Started clutching her chest, saying she couldn't breathe. We were discussing Derek McCarty's death. She was so upset about it. The heart monitor Owen had attached to Shannon showed textbook cardiac arrest patterns. The stress indicators were off the charts, consistent with overwhelming emotional trauma. To any medical examiner, it would appear that Shannon Howard had literally died of heartbreak over Derek McCarty's murder. Detective Wilson Welch arrived as the coroner was removing Shannon's body. Owen sat in his office chair, head in his hands, playing the devastated husband perfectly. "Mr. Howard, I'm sorry for your loss," Welch said gently. "I know this is difficult, but I need to ask a few questions." Owen looked up with red-rimmed eyes. "Of course. Anything to help understand what happened." "Your wife seemed upset about Derek McCarty's death?" "Devastated. She'd been working with him on some permit issues. When the news broke about his murder, she became hysterical." Owen's voice cracked convincingly. "She kept saying it was her fault somehow, that she should have warned him about the dangerous people he was involved with." Welch made notes, his expression sympathetic. Dangerous people? Derek had gambling debts. Shannon discovered he'd been taking money from construction projects to pay them off. She was trying to help him get legitimate financing. Owen pulled out a folder of fabricated documents that painted Shannon as a good Samaritan trying to save Derek from his poor choices. "So your wife was trying to help him?" "She always saw the best in people, even when I warned her that Derek was trouble." Owen's performance was flawless, mixing truth with fiction so seamlessly that even he almost believed it. The investigation that followed was perfunctory. Shannon's medical records showed elevated stress hormones, consistent with emotional trauma. Her phone records revealed multiple attempts to reach Derek on the day he died. The fabricated evidence in Owen's files painted a clear picture. A compassionate woman destroyed by guilt over her inability to save a troubled family friend. Christina returned from school to find her father being comforted by neighbors, the house full of flowers and casseroles from well-meaning friends. Owen held his daughter as she sobbed, his own tears mixing with hers in what appeared to be shared grief. "Dad, what happened?" Christina asked between sobs. "Your mother had a heart attack, sweetheart." The stress of Derek's death was too much for her. She blamed herself for not doing more to help him. Christina cried harder, and Owen felt a moment of genuine emotion. His daughter was truly innocent in all of this, and protecting her from the truth was perhaps the most important thing he'd ever done. "She loved us so much," Christina whispered. "Yes, she did," Owen replied, meaning it. Shannon had loved them, which made her betrayal even more unforgivable. The funeral 3 days later was perfect. Shannon was remembered as a devoted wife and mother, a woman who cared too deeply about others. The church was packed with people who spoke about her kindness, her generosity, her tragic end. Derek McCarty's memorial service had been held the day before, a smaller affair for a man whose gambling debts and poor choices had caught up with him. The two deaths seemed unconnected to everyone except Owen, who watched both services with the satisfaction of a chess player seeing his endgame unfold. Alan Beasley approached Owen after Shannon's service, his young face twisted with guilt and confusion. "Mr. Howard, I need to tell you something about my uncle Derek." Owen put a comforting hand on the boy's shoulder. "It's okay, son. I know about your uncle's problems, and I know you tried to do the right thing. But Christina doesn't know the truth about her mom, does she? Christina knows her mother loved her and died tragically. That's all she needs to know." Owen's voice carried a warning that Alan was smart enough to recognize. "What about the photos, the evidence?" "What photos?" Owen's eyes were cold steel. "Alan, you're a good kid who got caught in a bad situation. You helped me protect my daughter from some very ugly truths. I'll never forget that loyalty." Alan nodded, understanding that some secrets were meant to stay buried. That evening, Owen sat in his study, reviewing the legal documents that now made him a very wealthy widower. The insurance payout from Shannon's death would be substantial, ironic, considering she'd planned to collect on his own policy. His assets were secure, his reputation intact, his daughter protected. Christina found him there, still wearing her black dress from the funeral. "Dad, are you going to be okay?" Owen looked at his daughter, the only person in the world whose opinion of him truly mattered. "We're going to be fine, sweetheart. Your mother would want us to take care of each other. I miss her already." "I know, but we have each other, and that's what's important." Owen pulled Christina into a hug, meaning every word. "Family is everything, Christina. The people who love you, who would do anything to protect you. That's what matters." As Christina went to bed, Owen returned to his desk and opened a secure file on his computer. Inside were records of every threat he'd eliminated over the years, every enemy who'd underestimated him, every problem that had required permanent solutions. Shannon Howard's file was now complete, marked resolved, like all the others. Owen Howard had learned long ago that mercy was a luxury that got good people killed. He'd built his empire by being smarter, more ruthless, and more thorough than anyone who opposed him. Shannon and Derek had discovered too late that some men were not meant to be crossed. Now Owen was free to focus on what truly mattered, protecting Christina and building the life they deserved. The threats were gone, the betrayers eliminated, the future secure. Justice, Owen reflected, was a beautiful thing when properly administered. Chapter 8. Echoes of the Past. 2 months after Shannon's funeral, Owen Howard stood in his completed building on Bleecker Street, watching concrete trucks pour the final foundation layer. 30 feet below, Derek McCarty's remains would be sealed forever in the very structure he'd helped design. There was a poetic justice to it that Owen found deeply satisfying. Christina had thrown herself into her senior year with remarkable resilience. Her grief was real but manageable, and Owen was proud of how she'd handled the tragedy. Alan Beasley remained her boyfriend, his experience with Owen having matured him considerably. The boy now understood the value of loyalty and the price of betrayal. "Dad," Christina appeared at Owen's side, surprising him. "What are you doing here?" "Just checking on the project. Want to see your mother's memorial before the building opens." Christina looked confused. "Mom's memorial?" Owen pointed to a small plaque being installed near the building's entrance, in memory of Shannon Howard, a woman who loved deeply. The brass plate gleamed in the afternoon sun, a touching tribute to a devoted wife and mother. "It's beautiful," Christina said softly. "She would have loved that." Owen put his arm around his daughter, genuinely moved by her reaction. "Your mother deserves to be remembered for her love, not her mistakes." "What mistakes?" "Everyone makes mistakes, sweetheart. The important thing is how we learn from them." Owen's voice carried layers of meaning that Christina wouldn't understand for years, if ever. As they walked back to the car, Owen's phone buzzed with a message from Marcus, his investigator. Package delivered. The package was information about a business competitor who'd been making moves against Owen's latest development project. Some people never learned that Owen Howard's mercy was as rare as it was undeserved. That evening, Owen sat in his study reviewing financial reports when his secure phone rang. The number belonged to Judge Victor Sherwood, an old friend who'd helped Owen navigate various legal challenges over the years. "Owen, we need to talk. There's been some chatter about Derek McCarty's disappearance." Owen's blood chilled. "What kind of chatter?" "Nothing specific, but some people are asking questions. McCarty owed money to dangerous people, and they're wondering if his debts died with him. And they're looking at anyone who might have benefited from his disappearance. Your name came up because of the construction contracts he lost to you." Owen processed this information carefully. He'd planned for most contingencies, but organized crime's interest was something he hadn't anticipated. "What do you recommend?" "Make yourself visible, social, grieving. Take Christina on a vacation, maybe Europe. Let the heat die down while you establish an alibi of being a devoted father dealing with family tragedy." Owen considered this advice. A European trip would indeed serve multiple purposes. It would give Christina new experiences to heal from her mother's death, establish his presence far from any McCarty investigations, and allow his other business interests to resolve quietly. "Victor, I need you to arrange something else. There's a construction supervisor named Tom Bradford who's been asking too many questions about the Bleecker Street project. He thinks he saw McCarty on the site the night he disappeared." "How sure is he?" "Sure enough to be a problem." Owen's voice carried no emotion. "Can you handle it legally?" "I'll see what I can do. Maybe a sudden job opportunity in another state. Maybe a family emergency that requires relocation. Whatever works. But Tom Bradford needs to be gone before he talks to the wrong people." After hanging up, Owen realized that Shannon and Derek's betrayal had set in motion a chain of events that would require ongoing management. Each loose thread had to be tied off, each potential witness relocated or silenced, each question answered before it was asked. Owen Howard had built his empire on the principle that problems should be solved permanently, but sometimes permanent solutions created new problems. The key was staying ahead of them, always thinking 3 moves forward, always prepared to eliminate any threat to his family. Christina knocked on his study door, interrupting his planning. Dad, I was thinking about what you said earlier about Mom's mistakes. What did you mean? Owen looked at his daughter, seeing Shannon's beauty but his own intelligence in her eyes. Christina was 17, old enough to understand complex truths but young enough to be shaped by them. Your mother trusted people she shouldn't have, Owen said carefully. She saw the best in everyone, even when they were planning to hurt her. Like Derek McCarty? Exactly like Derek McCarty. Owen's voice hardened. Some people take advantage of kindness, Christina. They see compassion as weakness, trust as opportunity. Is that why he was killed? Because he took advantage of Mom? Owen nodded slowly. Derek McCarty was exactly the kind of man who destroys good people for money. Your mother tried to help him, and it broke her heart when she realized what he really was. Christina absorbed this, her young mind trying to process the complexity of adult betrayal. How do you know who to trust? Owen pulled his daughter onto his lap, feeling the weight of responsibility for shaping her worldview. You trust family first, always. Blood is everything, Christina. Everyone else has to earn it, and they can lose it just as easily. Have you ever been betrayed? Owen thought of Shannon, of Derek, of all the people over the years who'd mistaken his success for softness. Yes, and I've learned that forgiveness is a luxury that gets good people killed. So what do you do when someone betrays you? Owen looked into his daughter's eyes, seeing his own ruthlessness beginning to emerge. You make sure they never get the chance to do it again. As Christina hugged him goodnight, Owen realized he was raising a girl who would never be anyone's victim. She would understand loyalty and betrayal, strength and weakness, justice and mercy. Most importantly, she would understand that some lines, once crossed, could never be uncrossed. The sins of her mother would not be repeated. Owen would make sure of that. Chapter 9, Legacy of Steel. 5 years later, Christina Howard stood in the boardroom of Howard Enterprises, her MBA from Wharton fresh on the wall behind her father's desk. At 22, she had inherited Owen's sharp intelligence and his absolute intolerance for betrayal. The naive girl who'd once trusted her mother's boyfriend had become a woman who verified every relationship, every business deal, every friendship with the thoroughness her father had taught her. The Morrison Group is trying to undercut our bid again, Christina reported, reviewing the latest competitive intelligence. Should we respond with a counteroffer? Owen, now 57 and more formidable than ever, smiled with pride at his daughter's instincts. What do you think we should do? Destroy them completely. They've been stealing our clients for 6 months, using information they shouldn't have. Someone's feeding them inside intelligence. Good analysis. Any idea who? Christina pulled out a file folder, her movements precise and businesslike. Paul Robison in accounting. He's been copying files, staying late to access systems he doesn't need. Financial records show he's been living beyond his means. Owen felt a surge of paternal pride. Christina had inherited his gift for reading people and situations, but more importantly, she'd learned his lesson about permanent solutions to ongoing problems. What do you recommend? Frame him for embezzlement. Have him arrested publicly, destroy his credibility completely. The Morrison Group loses their source, and we send a message to anyone else thinking about betraying us. Owen leaned back in his chair, marveling at how perfectly he'd shaped his daughter. And if framing him doesn't work? Christina's smile was cold as winter, exactly like her father's. Then Paul Robison has an accident. Accidents happen to traitors, Dad. You taught me that. Yes, I did. Owen stood and walked to the window overlooking the city he'd conquered. Christina, there's something I need to tell you about your mother. Christina's expression didn't change. I know about Mom's affair with Derek McCarty. I've known for 3 years. Owen turned, surprised. How? Alan told me when we broke up junior year. He couldn't live with keeping the secret anymore. Christina's voice carried no emotion. I also know you killed them both. Owen studied his daughter's face, looking for judgment, fear, or disgust. He found none. And how do you feel about that? Proud. Christina stood and joined him at the window. Mom betrayed our family for money. Derek planned to murder you. You protected us the only way that mattered. They were planning to kill me and manipulate you after my death. I know. I read all the files when I turned 21. Christina's voice was matter of fact. You gave me the combination to your safe, remember? I found everything. The recordings, the photos, the investigation reports. Owen realized his daughter had been testing him just as he'd once tested Shannon. The difference was that Christina had inherited his capacity for justice rather than Shannon's weakness for betrayal. Do you understand why I did what I did? Of course. Family is everything. Loyalty is everything. People who betray us don't deserve mercy. Christina turned to face him directly. I also understand why you never told me the truth until now. Why? Because you needed to see if I was strong enough to handle it. If I was worthy of the Howard legacy. Christina's smile was proud, confident. I am. Owen felt a moment of pure satisfaction. He'd succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, not just in building an empire, but in creating an heir who understood the true cost of power. There's one more thing, Christina continued. I found something else in the safe. Information about other people who tried to betray you over the years. The competitor files. 17 people, Dad. 17 threats permanently eliminated. Christina's voice held admiration rather than horror. You've been protecting our family for decades. Owen nodded slowly. Some people think success makes you soft. They learn too late that it just gives you more resources to deal with problems. Like Derek and Mom learned. Exactly like that. Christina walked to Owen's desk and picked up a framed photo of Shannon from happier times. Do you ever regret killing her? Owen considered the question seriously. I regret that she forced me to. I loved your mother, Christina. But love doesn't excuse betrayal. Good. Christina set the photo down gently. Because I need you to know something about Paul Robinson in accounting. What about him? He's not working for the Morrison Group. He's working for me. Christina's smile was predatory. I've been feeding him false information for weeks, waiting to see what he'd do with it. Owen stared at his daughter, realizing she'd been conducting her own test of loyalty and betrayal. And he tried to sell it to our competitors yesterday. Just like you taught me. Give people enough rope, and they'll hang themselves. So what happens now? Now Paul Robinson disappears, just like Derek McCarty did. Permanently. Christina's voice was calm, professional. I have a construction project that needs a foundation poured tomorrow. Owen felt a surge of emotion that combined pride, love, and something approaching awe. His daughter hadn't just inherited his business empire. She'd inherited his understanding of justice, his capacity for permanent solutions, his absolute intolerance for betrayal. Christina, there's something I want you to understand. The things we do, the choices we make, they're not evil. They're necessary. I know, Dad. Weak people think mercy is a virtue. Strong people understand that some problems require permanent solutions. And you're comfortable with that? Christina Howard looked at her father with eyes that held no doubt, no fear, no weakness. Dad, I've been planning Paul Robison's disappearance for 3 weeks. I'm not just comfortable with it. I'm looking forward to it. Owen Howard smiled with pure paternal pride. His daughter was everything he'd hoped she would become. Intelligent, ruthless, loyal, and completely unforgiving toward anyone who threatened their family. The Howard legacy was secure. The sins of the past were buried in concrete and time. And the future belonged to a young woman who understood that some betrayals could never be forgiven, some threats could never be ignored, and some problems required permanent solutions. Shannon Howard and Derek McCarty had made the fatal error of thinking Owen Howard was a soft businessman who would accept betrayal for the sake of peace. They'd learned too late that mercy was a luxury he couldn't afford. Now Paul Robinson would learn the same lesson, and Christina Howard would be the one to teach it to him. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.